Hey, how's it going, everyone? I'm Dean Rogers, and today I have an interview with Emilio Lara. He is an 18-year-old young hustler in the real estate investing business, and he has been an inspiration to me and a living proof that no matter who you are, what your age is, what your economic status is, what you look like, doesn't matter. You can push through, you can get results and see success. And when I see young hustlers like Emilio pushing through and seeing success at his age, it's a true inspiration. And I hope that it helps encourage you to overcome some potential fears that you might have and realize that you can do it. You got this. Let's get it. Everyone, thanks for joining. This is Dean Rogers. Welcome to another episode. Today we have a special guest with us. We got a young hustler, 18-year-old Emilio Lara. Welcome to the episode, man.
Thank you, Dean. I appreciate you having me on.
Of course. So, man, let's dive into kind of how we met first, and then we'll dive into some more good stuff there. So, you're 18 years old. Most people getting started in real estate or are a real estate investor are not 18 years old. So like how the heck did you get started in real estate, man?
I was in high school and, COVID had just hit. And so I'm at home a lot of the time and, I have a lot of free time. So I'm on social media, YouTube and all this and TikTok. And, I find out about wholesaling and I thought, it's probably something I might be interested in doing in the future. And, as I have more free time, I just think about, hey, why not take action now? So I started, diving more deep into the education and just started making calls.
Yeah. That's what's crazy is there's so much information just right there in front of people's faces, right on YouTube. You can learn everything you pretty much need to learn. And of course, by doing, fill in some of those gaps. And of course, by talking to other people and getting mentors and rubbing shoulders with other people that are doing it, you're going to help fill in those gaps that you might not been able to get on something like YouTube. So that's awesome, man. So you and I had first met just this past year,
right,
at the meetup that I host with my team. And you stood out to me because not only you look young, but you were the first person there. And while we were still setting up, and you mentioned, oh, you'd driven several hours just to be there at the event. So talk a little bit about that, man. Like what made you take that kind of action to drive several hours, still young to the game, getting started? Like you drove several hours to be at a meetup.
Right. Yeah. So that was actually my first meetup because I know meetups were, shut down for a little bit because of COVID. And, when I saw that, you were hosting one, I had been following you on Instagram for a while and I just thought, I had to go. I had to, be able to network with people like you and just be around, like-minded people.
Yeah, that's the key thing, man. Like when you're just getting started, one of the most important things is not only to be gaining more information and learning more. And I remember when I first started, I was just listening, not even seeing, but listening to a free podcast. And I remember listening to some episodes over and over and over again, just to like beat it into my head and try to really grasp what was going on. And part of what can really accelerate that is by just being around other people that are learning at the same time. I mean, we're all learning. I've got so much to learn and I've been at it for 8 years now. So, there's always more to learn and there's always stuff to learn from people that are at different levels. Some
Absolutely.
people that are just getting started are going to have a fresh, different perspective on it, and you can still learn for those people. So, is that the only meetup that you've been to, or had you been to any prior?
Yeah, that was the first meetup I had gone to. I've been to some since then, but that was my first one. It was a great experience just being there and feeling the energy of everybody. Just wanting to network and just talk to each other. So it was definitely a game changer for me.
Yeah. Obviously that's the power of just being around other people, and the networking, like we talked about, is it just helps energize you. Like you feed off those other people that are also just as eager and hungry to learn and grow and win. And so you definitely feed off of that energy. So you went to that meetup. Had you been doing real estate before it, or were you just getting started?
So when I got to that meetup, I believe I had already no, so that was in June or sometime there. I had just closed my first deal the month before in May,
Okay.
and I believe I had one under contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So what was that first deal like, man? Let's walk through that, because one thing that I want to do specifically for this episode, based on where you're at and where you're going, the trajectory that you're on, is to help inspire other people that are just getting started, no matter what your age is. That there's a process to getting started, and part of it's just you and putting in the work, and some of it's also just kind of like picking a certain lane that you're going to swim in and going full speed.
Right.
So
Yeah.
walk us through how you came to that first deal.
Right. So I'd started um, really taking action in January, last year, 2021. That's when I started, cold calling, and I got a dialer, got some data and just really just hitting the phones. And I got my first deal under contract in April. So it took me about 4 months to get my first deal under contract. And from there, it was, probably one of the toughest deals I've had so far, just because the seller, she was very educated on the process, and it was a little hard for me to navigate, how to do it as a new wholesaler and how to walk her through that. So it was, I would say, like I said, one of the hardest deals I've had, but a big learning lesson. I'm glad that was my first deal.
Yeah, that's pretty intimidating. If you're just getting started and you're nervous about how to walk through a
Yeah.
contract, how to like know what the next thing is. If they ask a certain question, what do you say? Like I remember being nervous walking through those kind of steps, and if you have someone educated as a seller, they're going to expect a lot more. And if you kind of slip up and say the wrong thing, they're going to start questioning whether you're legit or not. And, can you even get this done? Show me a proof of funds. You're like, I'm broke.
Yeah,
I'm just
that
getting
was actually
started.
that was one of the things that she had asked for, proof of funds. She wanted, yeah, and that was kind of hard for me because I had never, no one's ever asked me that before. So,
Yep.
I had to go in, I had called up a hard money lender and told them I wanted to make an offer on the property. And, they gave me just a paper saying that I have the right to use their funds. So that really
Yep.
helped me out.
Yeah. That's a really key thing that I think is very important to just highlight. If you're just getting started, you got next to nothing in the bank, or at least not enough to really buy a house cash, because that's really part of the value proposition we're giving is, hey, we can pay cash, so you're not going to have to go through all the inspections and the bank loan approvals, et cetera. So and for years, I didn't have that amount of money to buy a house outright cash, because every dollar I was making, I was putting back into the business,
Right. Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. So one of the key things that you can do to make sure you're prepared for that situation is, again, through networking, finding who the local hard money lenders are and just asking them for a proof of funds. They'll be happy to do it because they're just hoping that you do come across a deal that you want to buy it and flip it and use them as a lender.
Yeah.
And they'll draw up like, hey, you're good for 500,000 or you're good for $1 million.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's huge. It's coming from a professional company. And that's essentially the proof of funds that you need to be able to handle that situation.
Yeah.
So, so let's rewind just a quick second. You started around January. What led you up to January? You said you were kind of at home more. You were researching. Like, what led you to look into real estate? You just
Right.
liked
Yeah.
it, or you just stumbled upon it on accident on TikTok, or?
Yeah, so I stumbled upon it on YouTube, and then I started just watching videos, and I think Jerry Norton was the first one I had ever saw, and just watching his seller call, see how he talks to people, and then obviously I see the spreads that he's making, the assignment fees. He's saying, oh, you can make 10, 20, like, oh wow, okay. So I think around, Thanksgiving, 2020, and to like Christmas, around that time, that was when I really started, education. And then I just felt confident enough. I just felt like I never had the trouble of, being scared to talk on the phone. I always thought that was the easy part. I just felt like I wanted to talk to more motivated sellers. So the hardest part for me was to just get through all the bad leads.
Yeah. So what was your biggest barrier to entry when you were first getting started? Was it just knowing like what areas to market to? Was it what marketing lists to start with? Like,
Yeah.
kind of walk us through how you figured that out.
Yeah. So that took me a while. Picking an area. I think when I was first starting, I pulled data in I don't know how many different markets. I would say at least 5, 6, and in all over the country. Cause I was thinking, oh, I could do this virtual because I live in California. So everybody said, oh, California's, too competitive. It's too hard to get deals out here. Go if you live in California, do virtual. So that was stuck in my head. So, I started buying data in, Ohio and Texas, Colorado, just anything but California. But I'd already had some California data, and I had a lead that I was following up with, and that turned in, to a good lead. And that was when I said, I'm just going to focus on California. And from there, when I picked one marketing channel, which was cold calling, and one market, which was, the Central Valley, that was when I really started to see progression and start getting good leads, and finally got my, first deal.
Yeah. So what you said there, I think is really good for the people listening in. When you're just getting started, you're like running around with your head cut off, trying to chase things down, figure out what's going to work, what kind of marketing to do, what areas to do it in. And it can become super overwhelming. I know I definitely wasted, I can say, an easy 6 months within my first year and a half of trying to go after like the shiny object,
Yeah.
Because I got started and I was super focused in a specific marketing channel, specific area, and I was getting good results. I was getting deals closed. I closed my first deal 3 months from the very first day I listened to the podcast from Sean Terry. And just, started building momentum and took action and closed my first deal in 3 months. So, for a lot of people, they'll just start chasing shiny objects like, ooh, I can make money in single family houses. Ooh, I can make money in rentals or flips or wholesaling or storage or multifamily. And there's a ton of niches within those things, and you start chasing your tail. So for you kind of said that you were kind of doing the same. Like you were getting data from Texas, you said,
Yeah.
getting data from some other areas. And it wasn't until you focused in California and said, all right, I'm focusing here.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get distracted other places, is where you finally started to get some traction, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Just, niching down to one specific market, one specific marketing channel is what really helped. And because I know a lot of people, when they start out, they want to try a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And like you said, that the shiny object syndrome, everything works. It's just a matter of doing one thing first.
I agree. Yeah. You can make money and great money in just about every real estate niche. There's people that are doing lease options, people that are doing subject to, people that are doing flips, wholesales, the whole 9 yards, and doing it in different types of real estate, some luxury, some medium price point, some entry level. So we could sit there and talk about all the different ways you could invest. But for you, it wasn't until you got focused and on an area. So for me, like my story was, when I first started, I'd just gotten done playing in the NFL, started my working career in corporate America in San Francisco. And when I realized I wanted to start investing, I started thinking to myself, well, where the heck am I going to start? I'm not going to do it in San Francisco because I was intimidated and I didn't really know the market at all there. So what I did was went back to, what I did know, which is where I grew up in Central California. So I know the neighborhoods, I know the streets, I know what the houses look like, I know what the price points are. So for me, and I'm sure it sounds like it was the same for you, you kind of went with what you were more familiar with, right?
Not really. I didn't grow up in the Central Valley, or I'm actually live in, the Bay Area.
Yeah.
So I chose the Central Valley just because it was a lower price point, and it comes to the thing, it was, everybody was in my head, Bay Area is too competitive. California is too competitive. Oh, Bay Area is even more competitive. So I didn't choose where I live. I chose the Central Valley just because the lower price point, and I've just stuck there just because that's where all my data is. And I eventually do plan to start marketing out here, but at this point in time, I'm just in the Central Valley.
Okay, so yeah, different but similar in some ways too, where you went where you were comfortable,
Right? Yeah.
Right, and I think that's really really important. My best advice for someone getting started is to start with where you know, right? Like where you can actually talk about the areas that you know. I'm talking to Miss Betty Sue Seller who wants to sell, and she's like, "Oh, are you local? Yeah, I went to Redwood High School.
Mhm.
Oh, my son went there. What year did you graduate?" So there's something you can talk about. Now, the next best thing is to go to a market that's close,
Yeah.
that you feel like kind of is a good fit for you, like Michael Zuber, right? He's a great example where he's in California, he's in the Bay Area. He was identifying what his life was going to look like and how he was going to gain financial freedom.
Yeah.
And it wasn't buying rentals in the Bay Area, not for
Yeah.
him. It was buying area rentals in Fresno, and it was close enough for him. The numbers were more easy to analyze and make sense from a rental standpoint. And, he stayed focused and made an amazing career out of it,
Right. Yeah.
So that's a great example. So, all right. So you got your first deal done. What did that deal look like? How much money did you make? Everybody wants to know.
My first deal, I made 22,000.
Okay. Now, did you split that up, share it with anybody, or was it just all your pie?
That was all me.
Woo! That's a juicy deal right there. What did that feel like?
It felt great. It felt, it was the most money I'd ever had in my account. And when I looked at it, I was like, I need another one. Yeah.
That's one of the, for people that are driven, right? And they're not just looking for that one paycheck. Even if I bet you, I almost guarantee it. If your first deal was $1 million deal and it hit your bank account, you'd have that same feeling, like you need another one.
I remember looking at it and thinking about how fast it was going to go when I put it back into marketing.
Yeah.
Like it was 100%. The most money I've ever had in my account, but I didn't feel like it was that much because I knew I was going to put it right back into marketing.
Yeah. 100%. That's amazing, man. 22,000 is a great first deal. Yeah, very, very good. My first deal, not to go off on a too long of a story, but my first deal I actually co-wholesaled with Sean Terry, right? Mm-hmm. And the backstory of how I got the deal and everything is a different time for that. But he sold it for a $12,000 profit. We split it. So I made $6,000. And I remember just when it hit my account, it closed. I can't remember if it was Sean Terry or escrow that had wired it straight to me. I just remember seeing it, and it just was that confirmation that I was onto something and what I was doing was working. So even if it's $1,000 that you make on your first deal, or in your case, $22,000, that confirmation that what you did works and you can make money from it is probably the biggest first milestone to get over that initial kind of barrier that you create for yourself,
Right.
So, all right. So you got that first deal done. What'd you do next?
I paid a mentor, and I got some cold callers and really just try to increase my lead flow. And because I knew, if it took me 4 months to get a deal by myself, I didn't want to wait another 4 months to get a deal, or let's say 2-3 months. I wanted to increase my lead flow to shorten that time.
So how'd you find a mentor, and how did you determine that you needed one?
How did I find him? It was Stratton Brown. And I found him, I believe he was I saw him on a podcast, and I heard that he was from Fresno. I was marketing in Stockton. It's pretty far, but I thought, hey, that's great. You know, he's in a market nearby that I'm marketing, and I knew that, you know, he could be a lot of help. You know, I watched his content, and I knew that, you know, it's something that I knew would definitely help me. And what was the second question?
Yeah, like how did you know you needed a mentor,
Oh yeah,
and how did you find him? But you
yeah,
said how you found him, but how did you know you needed a mentor? Because that's pretty quick to jump into it right away, you know?
right, yeah. So I just knew that it was going to shorten my learning curve. You know, I know that I can do everything by myself. You know, trial and error, and I'll eventually figure it out. But having somebody that shortened my learning curve, just tell me to get cold callers. I didn't want to get a cold caller. I thought, you know, I'll get my next couple deals, you know, by myself, you know, and then I'll get a cold caller once I, you know, feel comfortable. But he told me, no, get a cold caller. You know, we want to increase your lead flow. And I listened to him, and it's definitely one of the best decisions I made.
Yeah, because I think the interesting thing is when you're doing it on your own, um, just the learning curve is it's gonna take a lot longer to get where you want to go,
Yeah.
right? And in addition to that, not having someone to hold your hand through the tough decision moments
Mhm.
is you can it can go either one of two ways. It can go still good, or you can make some really bad decisions that just take you down a whole nother path, or you decide you want to start flipping houses all of a sudden and you totally screw that up and lose money. Like
Yeah.
there's things where a mentor can really help put up guardrails to get you on the right path and prevent you from making some mistakes that are maybe easy to identify mistakes from someone else's perspective that's been there and done that, you know?
For sure. Yeah.
So I'm a big believer in mentorship. I'm also a big believer in leaning on your network. Like if you have people that you're adding value to and rubbing shoulders with, they're going to want to reciprocate that and be willing to share and help.
Yeah.
So I think it's a makes a lot of sense why you did that. So where once you kind of pivoted into mentorship and getting cold callers, like where have things gone from there?
From there, I just tried to increase my lead flow, and as well as once I got a cold caller, I was still cold calling myself, just so I could have, you know, even more leads. And you know, once I did that, I closed a couple deals with my cold callers, and you know, got some more cold callers. And then from there, my lead flow was big enough to the point where I could focus on lead management. So which is just following up with, you know, all the leads in my pipeline, my CRM.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically, you know, my day to day, just lead management right now.
So was it your mentor that kind of helped put the pieces together with getting like tools and systems set up and like getting a CRM and doing all those kind of things?
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely a big help. You know, when it came to um putting all that in place, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So so kind of like going back a little bit, did you grow up in an entrepreneurial family, or like did you have encouragement from them to push you into real estate, or did you just have just a wild hair up your ass one day and you're like, I'm going to look at real estate investing, and grew it from there?
Yeah, definitely grew up in an entrepreneur, you know, family background. You know, my dad is, you know, multiple business owner, you know, brothers as well, mom, uh, all have, you know, their own business, sister. And just seeing that, I always wanted to start something on my own. And not that I didn't want help, I just wanted to feel like I did this because of me and not because of you or you know? So
Right.
that was something that pushed me to do real estate. And, you know, my dad, he's a licensed realtor, which is awesome. And I just pushed me in the wholesaling, you know, he didn't know about wholesale, or he knew about wholesaling, but he wasn't, you know, too familiar with it. So that was kind of what pushed me into it, to really just start it on my own.
Yeah. So uh, my so I grew up in an entrepreneur family too, and I saw what lifestyle it created. Like, you know, we had everything we needed, and they were really both my parents really hardworking. And so I saw the benefits of it. I also saw, the ups and downs of it too, because
Yeah.
things can go amazing. Things can also be tough and frustrating and difficult. So for me, I was convinced that when I started working, in my professional career after football, I was going to go get a good job and work my way up and get a real high paying job that didn't have to deal with all the other odds and ends of being a business owner
Mm-hmm.
and the extra additional just, weight that's on your shoulders and responsibilities that you have.
Right.
I was convinced I wasn't going to go start my own business, but after being a year in it, I was like, oh shoot, like the only way I'm going to get to my dreams and goals is if I go figure it out on my own, because no one else is just going to just take me right on up to the top where I want to be,
Right.
So, yeah, it sounds like, you kind of, so what are your goals? You're 18 years old right now, which is crazy. Are you still in school or are you out of
I'm
high
in
school or?
Yeah, I graduated high school last year.
Okay.
Not going to college.
Okay. So just, yeah, college, going to be some different opinions on this, but as I've moved through time, college is good for maturity, learning how to do some stuff on your own. But honestly, it's 4 years that could be a big waste of time, a lot of money spent, and you're definitely not going to learn the stuff that you need for real life unless you're a doctor or an attorney or something like that, where you're going to study that stuff in detail. But yeah, so I think you started before while you were still in high school. So
Yeah.
you're already ahead of the curve.
I got my first deal when I was 17.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. So, so where do you see yourself going from here? How many deals have you done? How many deals do you want to be doing?
Yeah.
Kind of give us an idea kind of where you're at and where you're going.
Yeah. So right now I have closed 4 deals and I currently have 3 in escrow. You can see my pipeline right here.
Oh yeah.
And then, how many deals do I want to do? I'm not sure how many deals I want to be doing, in a year. I know I'll put it out there. My goal for this year is to do, 350K gross revenue. Strats told me I need to up that a little bit more.
Yeah, push for it.
Yeah. So that's my main goal this year. I would like to be doing 3 deals a month by the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And just going to 2022 with, a lot of momentum. I felt like, going into this year, I didn't have as much momentum, and that's definitely one of my goals for next year.
Okay. So what do you think's going to help you get there? Is it just spending more money on marketing? Is it getting the right people added to your team to help support you? Is it just upping, leveling up and increasing your skills around the negotiations that you're having with sellers? What do you think is going to help you get to your goals?
Right. I mean, it's all of that. You just said everything. It's, getting the right people in place. So obviously, I'm doing the lead management right now. I would like to, hire a leads manager so that, they can be following up with all the fluff, in my CRM, because not every lead is a good lead. And, I would like to eventually, be just the closer, they qualifying the lead, doing everything, nurturing the lead. And, once it's there, I'm just closing it. And what helped me get there is obviously sales training, which is actually what I'm going through right now. And, like you said, getting the right people on the team. So maybe some more cold callers and, another marketing channel as well. Would definitely love to do direct mail. Right now, my only marketing channel is cold calling.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's one of the best ways for people to get started, especially for you to do it yourself and kind of figure out like how that whole thing looks. So you can truly figure out what's working while you're having these conversations, what you need to tweak. And that way, when you do bring someone on, you can clearly articulate, like, don't do this, you need to do this.
Right.
And that's part of probably one of the toughest things as a business owner. As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, the fact that you are going out on this journey in the first place, like you have certain traits that other people don't, and you're willing to do things other people won't do anyways. So
Yeah.
you're already kind of like geared and set up just who you are as a person to be in the position to take action. And then you're going to be wearing all the different hats,
Yeah.
sales guy, Mr. Finance guy, data entry guy. You wear every single hat, especially when you're first getting started, which I think is important because you start to learn all these different skills and understand what it takes to be a business owner. But for me, I've noticed personally, one of the biggest things that I need to level up in and have been getting better as I've been self-reflecting and also um, watching other people and seeing what they're doing is by delegating more tasks and having other people take on responsibility and being able to lead them. That's a whole nother skill set, and what can also be tough for business owners to continue to level up and go to those new levels.
Yeah.
So in addition to what your goals are and everything, are you doing this full time now? Are you part time with another job? Like, walk us through how that looks.
I would like to say I'm full time. I'm definitely putting in more than 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
Into wholesaling. I do have a part time job. I work on my brother's food truck. So that's I'm putting all the money that I make in wholesaling back into the business, and what I make at the truck is basically what I spend, on a daily basis, whether it's food, gas or whatever. So that's really helped me. That income, that extra, side income has really helped me stay disciplined to where I put all the money I make back into marketing.
So I think that's really, really important for people to hear. Again, whether you're just getting started, whether you're young or, you've already, been working at different jobs, just getting started in the business, like, it's completely okay to be working another job. It doesn't mean that you're not fully, invested in it. It's not that you're not focused. You should 100% take advantage of an opportunity that's going to provide you additional income and help lift you up, right? Because you don't want to starve yourself from a resource standpoint. Because if you're living so tightly because you don't have another income source, and you said I'm 100% in, and you didn't have enough of a runway, and you're living really tight, you're going to be kind of playing scared. The kind of idea of playing football or playing basketball. Like, if you're playing scared, and you're playing football, you're going to get the shit knocked out of you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, good luck if you're trying to catch the ball and you got alligator arms, you're going to get knocked out,
Yeah.
So if you're investing and taking on business confidently, right? And doing so because you're not worried about paying the next bill, and you have that other income source, it's going to give you the confidence to continue to push forward. And obviously, if you're geared like most entrepreneurs and you're taking it seriously, you're not going to be sitting at home watching Netflix for 4 hours every night and just wasting time. Like, every minute you have additional, you're going to be putting towards learning, towards doing, and growing the business. So I think that's an important message to get across, Emilio, because a lot of people will sometimes they'll use that as a crutch, and then they'll say, oh, well, it's too hard to do. And they'll just fall back on, the job that they have and just kind of be stuck there. So, 100% use that as kind of a launching pad to take you to where you need to go. So I love that. All right. So you said you're doing cold calling. What do you think you're doing in cold calling that's working? What do you think you need to do? What are you doing that's not working? Like, what can you improve on?
I think my biggest thing to improve on just cold calling itself would to just be in getting more leads. Not every lead is going to be a good lead. So just increasing the number of leads I'm getting so I can increase the number of good leads I'm getting is what I'm trying to get at right now.
Yeah. And then what kind of tools are you using? And, what kind of tools and systems?
Right. So my cold callers, they call on call tools, and I'm using Podio as my CRM, and I'm just doing my follow-ups from there using smartphone.
Okay. And what was that process like for you to like get all that set up? Because I know that's just another thing that you got to do to get set up and get the ball rolling. Was that hard for you to get it set up, or what did that look like?
What exactly? What?
Just your systems like Podio.
Yeah.
I'll be
Okay.
honest, Podio, I understand it
Yeah.
completely. I'm super technically savvy person. But Podio, when I went to set it up, I just realized that there was so much customization that
Yeah.
you could do that I was going to drive myself crazy, tweaking with it all the time.
Gotcha.
So I went through it twice trying to implement it and just realized that I was going to drive myself crazy, and ended up landing on Resimply. Resimply is another CRM that's out there and I use, and was a lot different than Podio.
Yeah, so I think when it comes to that, is leaning on your network. I've reached out to people saying, hey, I know you use call tools. What are your settings for this? What are your settings for this? What are your what's your system for this? And if you have, if you have it's a good enough person, you have a good enough relationship with them, they'll, send it to you. They'll show you, hey, I'm doing this, this, and this. I set it up because of this. And most of the time, I'm not gonna ask questions. Oh, why do you have that? It's if that's what you're doing, that's what it's working. I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, 100%. And did you go to your mentor for that? Did you go to YouTube? Did you go to Facebook groups?
It was for that was just leaning on other people, like people that I've met at meetups, or other groups that I'm in. Like I'm in Steve Strang's mastermind group. So
Okay.
people that are also in there. I know they're big players doing big numbers. So being able to lean on those people, connect with those people has been huge for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's one thing of course, we talked about a couple of times networking, but just encourage people to continue to meet more people.
Right.
That's a whole big reason why I'm doing, the content on YouTube and social media. Is the more people I meet, just the more doors open, and things just seem to get better and easier. Because and the more that you have an abundance mindset rather than scarcity, like, oh, I'm doing these deals, I'm not going to tell anybody where I'm finding these deals,
Yeah.
rather than just being open and sharing. I've found that there's a lot more deals that come your way and a lot more success as a result of just being open and sharing, because that comes back to you. It's reciprocated. As long as you're surrounding yourself with giving people, that's going to come back to you as well.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So tell people, share with people kind of what are some things that maybe you're looking for that people in the community could maybe reach out to you and be as a help to you, or maybe some things that you can offer to other people too, just either from an experience standpoint or a skill set standpoint, just so people can connect with you.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, as far as what I can offer, I do have a year of experience, and I feel like people reach out to me, on Instagram, ask me questions, and it makes me feel good to be able to answer their questions. So I mean, if anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer, because not only would I be helping you, but I'd be helping myself, because I feel more confident in myself being able to answer your question, and it helps me, get to just keep in growing, and that's great.
Yeah, I found the same thing. Like when people are asking questions, if I'm putting thought into responding and like helping them kind of sort out their thoughts, you're learning at the same time. You might not realize it. You might think, oh, I'm just, sharing something that's easy, or, I don't want to do this all day, or if someone has that kind of mindset. But the way I look at it is you're going to be learning more and solidifying your own understanding of how to do things the more that you're willing to help. So I think it's important to not only be willing to ask and raise your hand. Some people are going to respond, some people won't, but I'll always be willing to give back too.
It feels good. It really feels good.
It does feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's certainly a fulfillment aspect to that for sure.
Mhm.
So how can people reach you? What's the best places to reach you?
I'd say Instagram. It's Emilio Lara with the L in the Lara is a one.
Okay.
And then on
We'll throw it up on the replay on the screen, so we have that for people to reach out to you at the beginning and the end. So so Instagram's a good place to reach you.
yeah,
Any
so
other good places?
you can reach me out on Facebook as well, Emilio Lara. I'm not on there too much, but if you reach out to me, I'll definitely hit you back.
Okay, cool. Any other things that you might be looking for that someone else that might be watching this says, "Oh, I got that. Let me reach out to them."
I can't put my finger on anything right now that I'm exactly looking for. But I mean, if you interested, in talking to me, please reach out. I'd love to have a conversation.
Cool. Awesome, man. Well, anything else you want to leave the people watching with? Anything that's maybe been, helpful for you to kind of keep pushing along, or anything else that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I mean, I've said it already, but if you're just starting out, pick one marketing channel, one market, and stick to it. It might take a while, but I promise you that will be the best thing you can do instead of doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Yeah, 100%. Well, awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. That's all we got for today. I'm sure we'll touch back in with you and, see how your progress is going and seeing the more wins that you have stack up. So appreciate you sharing with us, man. You're an inspiration to me, and appreciate you being on for today's episode.
I appreciate it, Dean. Thank you so much for having me on and, giving me the opportunity to, share.
Of course, man.